Let's get right into it. Number 6. Outrage is easier than understanding. Somewhere along the way, being angry became a personality trait. Like people wake up, stretch, check their phones and go, "Ah yes, time to be furious about something I learned about 6 seconds ago." Outrage feels productive. It feels like action. But most of the time, it's just emotional fast food. Quick hit, zero nutrition. Psychologically, anger is simple. It's clean. It gives your brain a villain, a target, a story. Understanding is messy. It requires nuance. It requires sitting there going, well, it's complicated. And nobody wants complicated. Complicated doesn't go viral. Critical thinking is basically the ability to pause before screaming, to ask, is this true? What's the context? Am I being manipulated? But outrage skips all that and goes straight to full emotional combustion. And the funniest part? The angrier you get, the less your brain can think clearly. Stress literally shuts down your rational processing, so the more outraged society becomes, the dumber it gets in real time. Congrats, we're rage speedrunning stupidity. Number 5. The algorithm ate your attention span. Your brain used to be capable of reading a full paragraph without mentally drifting off to wonder what's for dinner. Now, good luck making it through 3 sentences without checking your phone. And no, it's not entirely your fault, it's the algorithm's fault. Social media platforms have weaponized something called variable reward scheduling, which is basically the same psychological trick that makes slot machines so addictive. You scroll, you get a mediocre meme, you scroll again. You get a decent video, you scroll again, you get garbage. But your brain doesn't know when the good stuff is coming, so it keeps you scrolling like a hamster on a wheel made of dopamine. The problem is, this constant stimulation has rewired your brain to crave instant gratification. Deep thinking requires sustained attention, the ability to sit with an idea long enough to actually process it. But when your brain is trained to expect a new hit of content every 8 seconds, anything that requires more than a TikTok's worth of focus feels like psychological torture. Studies show that the average human attention span has dropped from 12 seconds in 2000 to 8 seconds today. For context, goldfish clock in at 9 seconds. Yes, you now have a worse attention span than a goldfish. And here's the kicker. The less you practice deep focus, the worse you get at it. It's like a muscle that atrophies. Your brain literally restructures itself based on how you use it, so if you spend all day consuming bite-sized content, your neural pathways optimize for bite-sized thinking. Congratulations, you've trained your brain to be excellent at scrolling and terrible at literally everything else that matters. Number 4. Emotional reasoning takes over. Your feelings have staged a coup against your brain, and honestly, they're winning. Emotional reasoning is when you let how you feel about something dictate whether you believe it's true. If it feels right, it must be true. If it feels wrong, it must be false. Logic, evidence, context, irrelevant. Your gut is the Supreme Court now, and it doesn't need to hear arguments. This isn't entirely your fault. Evolution wired us to trust our emotions because, for most of human history, they kept us alive. Fear made you run from predators. Disgust kept you from eating rotten food. But now your emotions are being manipulated by everything from political propaganda to targeted ads to rage-bait headlines designed specifically to make you angry enough to click. Your feelings aren't guiding you anymore, they're being weaponized against you. Here's the real damage. Emotional reasoning bypasses critical thinking entirely. When something makes you feel good, you don't question it. When something makes you feel bad, you reject it instantly, regardless of whether it's actually true. Scientists call this motivated reasoning. You're motivated to believe whatever protects your emotional comfort. So you accept shoddy evidence that supports your worldview and dismiss solid evidence that challenges it. You're not thinking, you're just defending your feelings. And in a world where every piece of content is engineered to trigger an emotional response, your brain is basically a puppet on strings. The algorithm pulls, you dance. Critical thinking never even gets an audition. Number 3. Authority worship and credential confusion. People have forgotten how to evaluate expertise. On one hand, you've got folks who blindly worship anyone with a title, a lab coat, or a blue check mark. On the other hand, you've got people who reject all authority and treat their cousin's Facebook rant as equally valid as peer-reviewed research. Both extremes are intellectual disasters, and both are killing critical thinking. Here's the thing, credentials matter. A virologist probably knows more about viruses than your yoga instructor. A climate scientist probably understands atmospheric data better than a podcast host. That's not elitism, that's just reality. Expertise exists. But, and this is crucial, experts can also be wrong, biased, or compromised by conflicts of interest. Critical thinking means evaluating the quality of the argument, the strength of the evidence, and the credibility of the source. It doesn't mean blindly accepting everything an expert says, and it definitely doesn't mean treating all opinions as equally valid. But we've lost that balance. Now people either fall into total skepticism where every expert is a shill and every study is fake, or total deference where questioning an expert is tantamount to heresy. Neither approach requires thinking. One is lazy cynicism, the other is lazy obedience. Critical thinking is the hard middle ground, trusting expertise while remaining intellectually engaged, asking questions without assuming conspiracy, and recognizing that authority is earned through evidence, not just credentials. But that takes effort. So instead, people just pick a side and let someone else do the thinking for them. Your brain has outsourced decision-making to either trust nobody or trust this specific person unconditionally. Either way, you're not driving anymore. Number 2, the weaponization of do your own research. Do your own research has become the rallying cry of people who have absolutely no idea how to do research. It sounds empowering, right? Don't trust the mainstream narrative. Think for yourself. Dig deeper. Accept what people actually mean by research now is watching YouTube videos at 2 a.m., scrolling through conspiracy forums, and finding 3 blog posts that confirm what they already wanted to believe. That's not research. That's confirmation bias with extra steps. Real research is hard. It involves understanding methodology, evaluating sources, recognizing bias, cross-referencing data, and admitting when you're out of your depth. It requires intellectual humility and actual skills like knowing the difference between a peer-reviewed study and someone's self-published ebook, but nobody's teaching that. So instead, people think doing research means Googling until you find something that agrees with you, then declaring yourself enlightened. The irony? This fake research makes people more confident in their ignorance. They think they've done the work. They think they've uncovered the truth that they don't want you to know. Meanwhile, they've just wandered into an algorithmic echo chamber designed to radicalize them with increasingly extreme content. Critical thinking requires skepticism of everything, including your own conclusions. But do your own research culture breeds the opposite, absolute certainty, based on absolute garbage. You're not a free thinker. You're just getting your misinformation from different sources and feeling smug about it. And the scary part? You'll fight harder for beliefs you researched yourself than ones you were simply told, even if your research was objectively terrible. Congrats, you've turned intellectual independence into intellectual imprisonment, and you locked the door yourself. Number 1, the decline of reading. Real reading. Nobody reads anymore. Sure, you're reading tweets, captions, text messages, maybe a headline if you're feeling ambitious, but actual reading? The kind where you sit down with a book, an article, or even a long-form essay and engage with complex ideas for more than 90 seconds? That's basically extinct. We've traded books for bite-sized content, and our brains are paying the price. Reading like real reading is one of the best exercises for critical thinking. It forces you to follow arguments, track narratives, consider perspectives, and build comprehension over time. It's mental weightlifting, but skimming a Twitter thread or watching a 60-second explainer video, that's mental stretching at best. You're not building strength, you're just staying limber enough to avoid injury. The problem is that deep reading requires sustained focus, and sustained focus is a skill we're collectively losing. Studies show that even when people try to read long-form content, their eyes skip around the page in an F pattern, scanning the first few lines, jumping to subheadings, skipping to the end. We've been conditioned to hunt for quick takeaways, not to sit with complexity. And when you lose the ability to read deeply, you lose the ability to think deeply. Ideas become sound bites. Nuance becomes noise. Everything flattens into easily digestible chunks that require zero intellectual effort. Basically, we've turned our brains into fast food drive-thrus, and critical thinking is the sit-down meal nobody has time for anymore. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.